Police officers salute the arrival of George Floyd's body on its final journey before being laid to rest, paying respect to the man in death that he should have been due in life. His killing at the knee of a white police officer has sparked outrage across America and led to a global cry for change. But here today, it was the funeral of Big Floyd, the brother, the nephew, the son, the father of daughter Gianna and son Quincy, the local man who was raised in one of Houston's poorest neighborhoods.
And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be unto God.
Inside, they lined up to pay their respects, his body laid bare in its coffin as his image loomed overhead, and gospel singers filled the church, their faith, their rock.
We thank you for the life of George Floyd, oh God, that at a moment when he called out for his mama, we believe that the ears of mamas across this nation reared up, that the ears of mamas across this world heard him cry, even though for one mama, all mamas began to wail. We began to wail for our children. In Jesus' name, amen.
For some, like Wanda Cooper-Jones, coming here to Houston was a tough decision. Her son, Ahmaud Arbery, was shot and killed by two white men while he was out jogging in February. The funeral today will take her back to that moment, but she says she had to be here.
I made a promise to Ahmaud that I would fight for him.
You've obviously lost your son in tragic circumstances. Do you hope that these two things together will bring about desperately needed change?
Yes, ma'am, I really do. I'm hoping that once the world has seen the pain that we as a nation encountered behind these type of events, that they would actually put laws in place to bring about change. Just making law enforcement officers accountable for their actions. If we make them accountable, I'm quite sure they will make better decisions.
And do you think that this movement can be sustained to bring about that change?
People are losing their lives, so something has to change.
Alyssa Findlay lost her brother, Botham Jean, when an off-duty policewoman mistook him for an intruder and shot him dead. She said today would be difficult for her too, but she had to come to embrace the moment.
And every time there is a new case, it brings back the trauma from our loss. So I know for myself, for the past 2 months, it has been really hard for myself, for my family, because it's just reliving the trauma over and over. So I really hope change comes from this.
Has any of this made you feel any better?
Nothing will make me feel better about losing my brother, because I face that every single day. My brother is my best friend, so nothing in the world would make me feel better about losing him. I just look at it as we need to keep this movement going and keep the pressure so that there is change.
One of George Floyd's lawyers said for the healing to begin, America needs a South African-style Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
I think something was missing from the South African model. So it's truth and reconciliation. I think we need truth, justice, and reconciliation. The truth is brutality is an American issue. The American police force is just trained to be more violent, more militarized than any normal police force.
George Floyd!
And that's what has to change, he believes, to stop the endless cycle of pain. And each state should introduce hate crime protections, end qualified immunity that shields police officers, and abolish lethal force like chokeholds.
We have to find the collective will, both from the people who need to stand up and demand it, and the collective will from the government officials who will be responsible for implementing the necessary change.
For all the pain, there is hope here that George Floyd's death won't be in vain, and that the movement his name has given rise to could finally make a difference. Not just for him, but for the hundreds of black men and women his death and his enduring image has come to embody. Well, it's amazing to think that in the 15 days since the death of George Floyd, that his name has become something of a national anthem for change, not just here, but across the world. The killing of this 46-year-old black man at the hands of white police officers has sparked riots, protests, the toppling of statues, and even now the dismantling of police forces. So great is the desire for change. And some of those images of the protests at one point in the service behind me there will be beamed across to the congregation as a reminder that the death of their loved one will not have been in vain. There will be a eulogy later by the Reverend Al Sharpton, and also a message from Joe Biden will be piped in, the Democratic presidential nominee. After about 2 hours, the family are expected to leave here when the service is finished for a private burial. And you'll remember that one of the most poignant moments in that now infamous video was when George Floyd cried out for his mother, called out her name in his last desperate final attempts to breathe. Well, later today, he will be laid to rest beside her.